Okay, I just wanted to do a brief explanation of this 2 week long project I've been working on using Gemini AI to build something that would normally be completely out of reach for non-programmers such as myself to show the power of AI as it stands at the moment. This project has been built into a page of my WordPress site that I've had for since about 2012, where I used to write technical posts just for hobby interests, mostly to do with Linux. And over the years, I've accumulated a lot of posts. Um, so now it's become just a really good learning exercise to use this website, this WordPress website, to generate something an AI project to show the power of it. Because even if you were a programmer, it probably would have taken a long time to actually be able to come up and create a project like this of this complexity. And the reason being is there are a lot of scripts involved. If we look at some of the directories in here, we've got um, how it all started, which was basically to just get a microphone function working. So, but as a plugin, so that we could literally just put a shortcode into a text page and then connect the microphone to it so that you could speak into the microphone icon, have that translated by a small large language model, an LLM, large language model, but a very small version that's available online to download into Linux in WSL2 in Windows. Um, and then there are different families of those. Some have a larger resource footprint than others. And I've been through 4 of them now because Gemini gave me the least resource heavy one last. And again, this was part of the working process, the learning process of doing this project. So in the long run, it's actually turned out better because I've learned a lot, obviously. But it's actually using a little model called Nomic Text. So there's 2 working directories, and the first one was to basically, you can see in this, it created a directory in the normal plugins directory of WordPress, and we called it My Voice Search. So that then is seen by inside, where are we? That's then seen, I don't know, the bar's in the way. That's then seen inside of WordPress in the plugins called My Voice Search here. It just says enables microphone input. So that's how it started, just to get that bit going. And then the idea was to utilize your voice to actually get a semantic search done against the actual large language model that you can download from within the repositories or maybe Git, and get Gemini to write the appropriate scripts in various directories. Let me open another terminal here, for example. So if I go to the actual root directory and list what's in here, you can see this one is called My LLM project here. And inside here is the various scripts that Gemini has written as it created these. So if I take this one, for example, if we catted that and catted semantic search, because I'm not in the directory, that's why. So cd into my LLM there, and then cat the semantic search, you'll see the code that Gemini wrote for that one example. So obviously the speed at which Gemini just generates code enables you then to actually go, and during the process, having set up with an appropriate prompt for your environment and everything else, which I've built up over weeks with things like this, defining all the start commands that I'd need to run and everything like that, saved in text files, um, so that you tell Gemini your appropriate environment for each session that you want to run. Because I've found from the experience of Gemini in the last 2 months, if you're doing a lot of toing and froing with a lot of text and a lot of output sent back and forth, Gemini's own resources, after maybe quite a few hours, you'll find that that's when it starts to hallucinate, because it's just overloading the available memory that Gemini's actually got online. And also, there's such a backlog of data that has been put into it, it has difficulty tracking what's relevant for recent to and fro's conversations compared to what you've already given it. And it can't blame it for that. It's a lot of information being passed backwards and forwards as part of the process of debugging when you're sending output back to it for what it's just created in terms of a text, and then run and restarted a server and all this sort of stuff. It's complicated in that sense. But from your user perspective, as a non-programmer, somebody with a reasonable amount of technical knowledge to be able to know what they're driving at. But really, all it boils down to is having some technical knowledge and being able to use a word editor like Vim in Linux, and then be able to copy. Once you've set Gemini up to give you what you want in terms of your functionality of how your workflow is going to operate, and then just literally copy the text, so that, like, one command at a time. This one's 4 commands in one. CDs me to the correct directory. It removes the previous version of the script. It creates a new empty one with touch, and then it opens that empty document. Then I just press I for insert, and then literally copy the text here of the code that it's produced. Then I go to the terminal, and obviously it will be open then from the previous command. In Vim, it will just be a blank screen. I paste it into there, save it, and then we probably we rerun the Flask server and then do another search on the front page to see what has happened with the latest incarnation, which often means that sometimes I'd have to look at, in DevTools, hard reset, because the Chrome browser is terrible for caching, and do a hard cache and reload every time to make sure it's picked up the latest version of the changes, um, and then do another search. So AI powered semantic search, found 5 results, and there it is again, what we just did before. And then when you summarize that article, it sends the whole post that it's saved in a different directory, which we may as well look at in Windows here. If we go down to Linux in Ubuntu here and look at where the home directory for the texts are, which is in www, and the actual folder Debian admin is where the actual original site resides. And in here, we've got my LLM project, which is where all of these texts reside. And obviously, if I open those in Notepad, you could read them. And here's all the key, without going, the explanation is actually in a post. So what I plan to do is get this online, and then either in the cloud or whatever. But that's going to be a difficult learning curve in itself, because this is not a production server. It's got security vulnerabilities and things like that, because it's just a proof of concept. But what I want to do at some point is get this site back up, and then it will be sort of a portfolio showcase site for various AI projects. But this is just to show the power of AI and how far it's come, and what's available this year for the average person who isn't a programmer but would like to get projects like this done and has never been able to. Because for someone like me, I've tried programming many times and I just can't get on with it at all. I'm useless as a programmer. I haven't got the patience to stare at code, and Gemini just does all of that work for you. So what used to take weeks for programmers to do can be done in hours. It's absolutely incredible. what's available. And this is where all of the scaremongering videos that you see on YouTube are coming from about various IT jobs that are going to be replaced. I don't think it's quite that extreme, because the experiences that I've had with AI is that you need a human in the loop. It can't just make stuff itself, obviously, and you have to watch it, because at each step you do have to be checking that it's actually doing what you expect it to do, and not just assume it will, because it will hallucinate. And sometimes, and when it does, it can go really senile very quickly. So you have to be on the ball about what it's actually producing and whether it seems valid or not. So there will always be roles for programmers and tech savvy people who become prompt engineers to actually, do these kind of projects in these next couple of years, the sort of early stages before lots of agents are actually built and proven as working, in my view, where they are in a position to be trusted implicitly, which I don't think is possible, because the nature of the technology itself um, has this statistical aspect to it. So it's always going to have the potential to create incorrect scripts or incorrect output that it can lead to some terrible rabbit holes when you're debugging, if you allow Gemini just to take you on that journey, before you pull it back to sort of common sense and reasoning. I've been through all of these kind of things in the last 2 weeks. Um, so an incredible learning curve, and something that I'm really proud of, even though Gemini's basically done all the work, really. But, you know, it's just coming up with that idea, and then having a go at doing it yourself and letting Gemini do all the programming. And then when it doesn't work, you just feed back the output, and Gemini, most of the time, will be able to realize what it's done wrong and then immediately produce a new script, and correct it. And all you have to do is it's just a process of reiteration. That's all. Putting various versions of scripts as they're improved, or say one breaks something that was working, and then you know just keep, like you would if you were a programmer. But it just saves, probably at least days for a programmer, and probably more likely weeks, if not months, for large projects for organizations. So you can see why AI is being touted as, the job stealer. Although, like I said, I'm not really sure that that's the case, not en masse immediately, because it's just not possible. You will need those people who are already in those technical positions to just start using it and just speed up their output. Really, that's the benefit for corporations as it stands in the short term, I see, before people can actually be replaced long term. That's the way I see it anyway for now. Anyway, I hope this is useful to somebody, and it acts as a bit of a portfolio thing for potential employers for me. That's really sort of what I was also thinking while doing this particular project, and I'm very pleased with the way it turned out.